You wake up on stone that's colder than winter, the kind of cold that bites through your shirt and settles under your ribs, and when you inhale, the air feels dry enough to crack your throat like paper. And the ceiling feels low, too low, like the room is pressing down on your chest with slow, patient force. Your palm slides across limestone and you feel grit, sharp and fine, and you realize the floor isn't flat, it's slightly angled, like the whole chamber was built to drain something. Water, dust, maybe sound. Because when you move, the noise doesn't echo the way it should. It just dies, swallowed by geometry. Wait. Ahead of you, perfectly centered, there's a black stone platter like an altar, and next to it, a measuring ruler and a label, and strips of Japanese rice paper that look delicate but carry a quiet message. Don't touch. Now don't breathe too hard. Don't pretend you're in charge here. Watch this. A scrap of parchment sits on that platter and it looks empty, blank, until the lights change. Not brighter, not dimmer, just different. And suddenly, the blank starts to behave like a lie, because the camera isn't taking one photo, it's taking many, through multiple wavelengths. And some of those wavelengths reach where your eyes can't go. Hold on. That's when the pressure hits you again. Not just the ceiling, not just the stone, but the weight of the idea itself. Because you've heard the claim, you've seen the thumbnails, you've felt the hook in your gut. Something appeared where nothing was supposed to be. Something between the lines. Something that changes everything. Sounds crazy, right? Now pay attention to this, because the internet tells this story like it's one sudden miracle. But the paper trail says it's a chain of dates. And each date is a door. And each door leads deeper into the same cold structure. The dates don't match. At least, not the way people want them to. March 24th, 2021. A paper gets accepted, and almost nobody outside a small circle even notices. Because acceptance doesn't trend. Acceptance doesn't scream. Acceptance happens in quiet rooms, where artifacts don't forgive mistakes. And the people doing the work are careful the way bomb technicians are careful. Catch that? Then April 21st, 2021 hits, and PLOS-1 publishes the study, and the Great Isaiah Scroll, 1QISAA, the celebrity of the Dead Sea Scroll world, suddenly isn't one voice anymore, it's two. And that sounds small until you realize what it does to the story you were told. Let that sink in. You've heard the Isaiah Scroll described like a single steady hand, one scribe, one continuous copy, one clean act of transmission. And for decades, that story felt safe, because the handwriting looked uniform enough that pushing back sounded like opinion, and opinion is easy to dismiss. But here's where it gets strange, because a computer starts measuring what your eyes can't easily prove. And the scroll stops being a smooth wall and becomes a wall with a seam. Hold on, because I want you to feel this physically, not as trivia. The Great Isaiah Scroll measures about 7.34 meters long, around 26 centimeters high, and it's organized into 54 columns. And right around the middle, between columns 27 and 28, there's a real physical interruption. A three-line lacuna at the bottom of column 27 and a sheet change where two sheets are sewn together, which means the object itself has a midpoint scar. Read that again. Now ask the question you don't want to ask. If a seam exists in the skin and thread, can a seam exist in the human process too? Two scribes, two halves, one artifact pretending to be one voice. Doesn't add up, does it? It does. And that's the problem. Now watch this. Because the moment you hear AI, your brain wants the ghost story, the secret sentence, the hidden confession between lines like a whisper trapped in leather. But the real punch is colder. The machine didn't need new words. It only needed to prove the hand behind the words may have changed, quietly, mid-scroll, while still wearing the same handwriting mask. Yeah, I know. And then, like a second corridor opening inside the same building, you hit May 2018, and the Israel Antiquities Authority's conservation labs run multispectral imaging on tiny scraps from Cave 11. Fragments stored in cigar boxes since the 1950s, and Hebrew script appears where the naked eye saw nothing, like the ink was always there, just waiting for the right light to confess. Wait, what? The details aren't vague, they're sharp enough to cut. One fragment seemed to come from a previously unknown manuscript. Another belonged to the temple scroll and helped settle the debate about whether there were 2 copies or 3 in Cave 11. The new portion pointed to 3, and the third fragment belonged to the Great Psalm scroll and filled in a missing portion beginning at Psalm 147:1. And then they dropped the number that feels like a locked door. An estimate that there are 19 cigar boxes still to be analyzed. 19 boxes. Still waiting. Think about that. Zoom out for a second and look at the architecture of how this is done, because it's not mystical, it's procedural, it's geometry. The fragment goes on a black stone platter, a ruler sits beside it, a label sits beside it, and if the scroll is in poor condition, Japanese rice paper holds it together, and every element in the frame is there because someone, sometime, learned the hard way what happens when you skip a step. You with me? And here's the first hard truth. The one that kills the fantasy and makes the real story scarier. Between the lines isn't always a new sentence. Yet sometimes it's the machine finally separating ink from noise. Finally deciding that a dark patch is ink, not a hole showing the black background, not shadow, not conservation material. And if you think that's nitpicky, remember what a single letter can do to a claim. Stop. Now pay attention to this, because the official explanation is hiding in plain sight. Written in one sentence on the IAA project page, like a confession, no one reads. The imaging technology helps recover traces of writing that have faded to invisibility over the years, with the help of near-infrared wavelengths. That's not a rumor. That's the stated purpose. You can verify it yourself, right now. Check for yourself. So why do people still call it a cover-up? Because the same cold, controlled conditions that preserve the scrolls also limit access. And limited access breeds stories, and stories demand villains. And when people hear invisible writing recovered, the fear isn't the ink. It's the possibility that someone chooses what gets amplified and what stays buried. Then came the cover-up. At least, that's what believers say. But the technical world has its own version of paranoia. And it's not about secret societies. It's about tools you can't audit, because the Times of Israel reports something that should make you pause. A European team introduced a deep learning method for ink segmentation, but they did not publish their trained algorithm, so other researchers can't access it independently, which means the thing that decides ink or not ink can become a black box, and that's how trust breaks even without a conspiracy. See the problem? Now watch this. Because the same report says Nachum Dershowitz and Barat Kurar Barakat went open source with their approach, trying to give scholars broader access, and the workflow they describe is brutally real. Computers must learn what your eyes do instantly, and that means ink segmentation and parchment segmentation, pixel by pixel, on images where ink and black background can look identical, where holes confuse the system, where the contours matter, where energy minimization is used to strip away blank parchment until letters stand alone like bones. This is real. And then you hit the quote that should be the only slogan allowed in this entire genre. With the Dead Sea Scrolls, even reading just one more letter is good. That's Professor Nahum Dershowitz, and it's not poetic, it's a reality check. Because it tells you the truth comes out in crumbs, not in explosions. And if you're waiting for the one sentence that changes everything, you might miss the 1,000 micro changes that already are. Now connect these dots, because this is where the Isaiah story and the Cave 11 story snap together like two halves of a blueprint. In Isaiah, AI isn't inventing a hidden prophecy. It's detecting a boundary. Two scribes inside a scroll long treated like one steady hand. In Cave 11, multispectral imaging isn't inventing lines. It's pulling ink out of invisibility on fragments that sat in cigar boxes since the 1950s. And both stories lead to the same uncomfortable conclusion. History hasn't finished speaking. We just finally built microphones sensitive enough to hear the whisper. That's not what the documents show. If your documents are only viral clips, but it is what the documents show if you read the actual. So what appeared between the lines changed everything. Here's the honest version. No costume, not a demon sentence, not a secret extra book, but a new kind of visibility. Visibility of ink that faded beyond human eyes. Visibility of seams in physical construction. Visibility of multiple hands hidden inside one uniform style. So the scroll stops being a silent monument and becomes an active crime scene, full of traces you didn't know how to see before. Notice the pattern? Now, I'm going to make two bold claims, and you can challenge me with receipts. First, the most dangerous part of this story isn't hidden text. It's hidden confidence. The way a clean image, a confident overlay, a neat reconstruction can outrun the messy reality of holes, shadows, rice paper, black backgrounds, and pixel classification. And once that happens, a guess becomes a fact on the internet. Second, the real gatekeeping future isn't who owns the scroll, it's whose model decides what ink is. Because once AI becomes the lens, whoever controls the lens can control the story without ever touching the artifact. Explain that. You can verify this, and I mean that literally. Open the PLOS1 paper and confirm the publication date, April 21st, 2021. Then read the part describing the Great Isaiah Scroll's 54 columns and the physical caesura between columns 27 and 28. Then open the IAA Digital Library page and find the line about near-infrared recovering writing, faded to invisibility. Then open the Cave 11 imaging report and read the 3 discoveries, including Psalm 147:1 and the 19 cigar boxes still waiting. Look it up. Now watch this, because we're going to end where we began, and it'll feel heavier. March 24th, 2021, accepted. April 21st, 2021, published. April 22nd, 2021, the Smithsonian story spreads the two scribes idea into the public bloodstream. And September 13th, 2025, the Times of Israel reports a toolchain with numbers. 98% accuracy for parchment, 75% for ink in their test set. Built on the same cold room logic of rulers, labels, black platters, and fragments that can't be handled like normal objects. And if you're still waiting for a single sentence that changes everything, you're missing what already changed everything. The fact that we now have machines that can argue with your eyes, in public, with receipts. So here's the full circle question. No hype, no magic, just pressure. If the Great Isaiah Scroll can hide two hands behind one style, and Cave 11 can hide ink inside blank fragments for 70 years, how many other finished historical objects are still unfinished? Just waiting for the next wavelength, the next model, the next person stubborn enough to chase one more letter?